everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the start of yet another weekend reading vlog. Hi, hello. It is currently Friday, middle of the day. I'm still kind of working. I just made myself some lunch, but I wanted to pop in and get this vlog started because after work, I'm going to be doing a little bit of running around as I usually do, and then I have a D&D game, so I just wanted to make sure that I started this vlog before all of that chaos happens. I missed talking to you guys last weekend. I hope you don't mind that I skipped it, but that is totally okay for me because you guys got a beta reading vlog, which is great, What am I gonna be reading this weekend? That's a great question. I really don't know what I want to read because I have a couple things on the go and like nothing's really jiving, but I am hopefully going to wrap up a few this weekend that I have on the go. Last night I started Amari and the Night Brothers. This is another pull from my TBR jar. This was actually a DNF last year because I was listening to it via audiobook, but I have it physically and I pulled it from the TBR jar and now I'm halfway through and I am enjoying this one. So I knew this was a DNF that was like I will pick up at another time and try it again because I'm probably just, you know, I'm gonna be fine with it. I also am reading this one for my space vlog, so I probably will be getting through this as well. Other than that, I always have a lot of things on the go, but I'm not really feeling any of my other current reads. I might work through Gunmetal Gods at some point a little bit more because it is a buddy read. I also have, I don't know if you guys saw that video that I put up at the beginning of the year. I think it was like the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. I also have a list in my bullet journal keeping track of said books, and as you can tell, I have not read a lot of them. So I decided I need to actually get my shit together and read these. I've counted there are 13 on this list, but I'm not gonna count Words of Radiance because Words of Radiance is huge and I want to do its own reading vlog. I'm sorry about my air kicking on. I hope that doesn't bother you guys. So I'm gonna roll a d12 and see what I'm gonna be reading this weekend as well, what I'm gonna start. Well, I rolled a 6 and that is A Memory Called Empire, which I'm currently working my way through, so let's roll again. Let's see. Oh, I rolled an 8. Look at that. Look at that, beautiful 8 on there, a beautiful 8. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst, which is one that I've had on my list for a while. And I believe this is a fantasy standalone, so even better. So if I do feel like reading something else other than the books that I have on the go, it will be this one. But yeah, I need to get going on my 22 books I want to read in 2022 because it's almost the end of August. Tonight is my D&D campaign that I'm running. Well, I'm excited to have all that going. Last night I sat on my couch and like planned it all out till like 1 in the morning. So next session, or this session is all planned out. Very, very fun. That's gonna be my day. So I should get back to it. Got a couple more things to wrap up before my Friday is done. But then we're gonna go grocery shopping and drop off a book at the library and then play some D&D. So it's gonna be good. Hello friends, happy Saturday! It is just about 20 to 6 in the evening. Hi, hello! I didn't realize that today was gonna get away from me so hard without actually talking to you guys. Last night's D&D game was fantastic. I had a great time running my friends through some of the stuff that I had planned, and it was, I don't know, it's like a gentle joy of a DM that like when your party is just so stressed about something, but you just keep like not putting them through a combat or like showing them it's a trap. You just like put them in a haunted ass ship or like a husk, give them a lot of information, they find some stuff out about people, they, you know, keep combing through, and then right when they're about to leave, that's when you throw the combat encounter at them. Very good. They were very stressed, but they did a very good job last night. Had some good emotional story beats, which were perfect. I'm very happy with it. I'm not sure what the next session's gonna be like, but we'll see how that goes. I know like what the next big thing that they're gonna meet is, but I have to actually like see what kind of where they're gonna go. I don't know. We're gonna see, because they have been like moving pretty quickly through each of these things. Who's to say? Who's to say? Last night I also ended up finishing Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, and this was very cute. I'm glad that I repicked it back up, even though I DNF'd it the first time. I was correct in my assumption that I was just reading it at the wrong time. I did this as well with one of the Rick Riordan Presents books. I think it was Tristan Strong. I started reading it and I just knew immediately that I was like, this is not the right time for me to be reading this book. I'm just not getting as much out of it as I could. So I remember putting that down and picking that up later, and it was just absolutely delightful. Same with this. I will say though that this world is a bit too busy for me. Too much going on. Like at one point we had this one guy show up and take Amari up to some constellations and like read her constellations, which felt really out of place in this world. Like it has a very big like Men in Black but fantasy vibe instead of Men in Black aliens. This bureau of people taking care of all these supernatural creatures and stuff like that. Very Men in Black vibes. But I wish it had like stuck to that specifically and didn't go branching out so far with like the whole the Night Brothers is like the whole thing, but like the whole addition of the Van Helsings and like bringing in the Dracula stuff. It was trying to do like and explain everything almost. Like it was just bringing in so many different stories. Like it had Professor Horus, like it was like using words that are from like Greek mythology and from stories from Dracula, like from all over the place, trying to explain it all in this little itty bitty book, and it was just a lot. I will say that the world is very magical, but to me it was a lot. I feel like kids would probably revel in this because there's just so much happening. Yeah, the story itself was very good, like the plot lines and the characters and stuff. The side characters felt a little flat at times, like Amari's friend, the little were-dragon, which I want her story because we barely got any of her story in this. Like she just kind of went along with all Amari's stuff, and I wanted there to be some conflict between them. I wanted her to be like, well, you don't really care about helping me figure out how to like shift or whatever, because that was her issue, that she couldn't shift into a full were-dragon. I wanted there to be a little bit more conflict there, but she just went along with everything Amari was doing, which was nice. Like we love when friends are really supportive for their friends, but like it just felt a little bit friendship insta-lovey between the two of them, which I get it. That's kind of what like 12-year-olds when they're making friends. That's the vibes. Sometimes you just like see someone, you're like, we're gonna be best friends, and then you just are. But I will say, like, the twists and turns in this were pretty interesting. Story's pretty neat, and I probably will check out the next one, but for now, this is done. I don't know what I'm gonna rate it. I will put that through Copile eventually, but read that. And then this morning before my live stream, which was great by the way, I ended up reading a bunch of pages of Gunmetal Gods. I'm still liking this. It's just, I'm so tired of reading narratives that just shit all over women. Like I get it, you're trying to be accurate to the place that it's like set in, sort of like you're trying to be accurate to the time and like what it's based off of, and it's a really dark narrative, but the thing is you can be dark, you can be absolutely brutal. There's moments in there where they are absolutely brutal, and you don't have to include sexual assault, you don't have to include women being objects, you don't have to do that to make a narrative dark. Human beings are capable of atrocious things. I'm just tired of women being treated like objects and then taking it and not doing anything about it because their characters are so two-dimensional. So that's my only critique about Gunmetal Gods so far. Like I understand what the author's trying to do. She's trying to emulate where this like a book is set and like what that's based on and the time period obviously that it's kind of based on and stuff. Like women historically have been treated absolutely terribly, and I understand that, but I am tired of fantasy worlds leaning into that kind of stuff. Like why do you have to include like slavery? Why do you have to include all this kind of stuff to make it dark because you're pulling on people's already learned experiences? No, you don't need to do that. There was a scene in this book that one of the guys had all of his followers drown babies. That's enough to make this shit dark. I'm not gonna lie. Like, John Gwynne is a master at making absolutely dark, brutal scenes through the violence and the killing of people and like the gore and the physical nature of stuff. And I don't think he includes sexual assaults. At least I have not read one from him yet. I really hope there's not any. Again, like, he treats women really well. His female characters are wonderful. I love Orca. Orca's like probably the scariest character he has. Yeah, that's my only critique about Gunmetal Gods. And the pacing is a little weird. Some of the scenes are too fast and some of the scenes are too long. Like, it doesn't have a good balance to it. We just had a fight scene and it was like literally not even a page long. And I was like, wait, so you can kind of tell what the author likes to write and doesn't like to write. Anyways, I'm gonna be continuing that at some point today, but I just finished an early dinner because I have another D&D game at 6. I joined an online party and they play twice a week, so we're gonna see how that works for me. I'm not gonna be able to play twice a week for a couple weeks though, because next Saturday I'm gonna be at the lake and the following Saturday is my birthday celebrations with my friends, so I'm not gonna be able to play those Saturdays, but we'll see how this party goes. I'm giving it a good old try. They're so far not my brand of D&D. It's very like murder hobo vibes, so we'll see. It's probably just gonna be fun to like blow off steam kind of a party. I'm gonna finish this episode of New Girl because I'm currently rewatching some New Girl, which I love. It's my favorite TV show ever, and I will chat to you when I'm done my D&D game. Happy Sunday! I'm back to chat about a book that I read and in its entirety last night. Basically, I had like maybe 30 minutes left in the audiobook this morning to finish, which I just finished. And that is The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst. Why I started it last night, I'm not entirely sure. I wanted something more lighthearted and fun, and again, none of my current reads are lighthearted and fun. Gunmetal Gods, absolutely brutal. Memory Called Empire, thick, dense space opera, you know, all that kind of goodness. And I didn't want to start another book on my TBR when I said I was going to read this one. So I decided to just dive into this, and boy was it good. God, I wish people talked about Sarah Beth Durst more because her books are so good. She writes some of my favorite worlds, some of my favorite like themes in fantasy. She wrote the Queens of Renthia series, which apparently I don't own anymore. No, I do. They're just stacked underneath. They're mass markets. They're on my shelves. The Queens of Renthia series, which is one of my favorite trilogies of all time. It is so well written. It is just fantastic. And the world itself is so lush and so cool. She also wrote Run the Sands, I think it's what it is. Something like that. It's another standalone fantasy that deals with monster racing and the morality of like, if you do well in your life, you will be reincarnated as either if you do like super well, I think you get reincarnated as like a person, but if you don't do as well, you get reincarnated with like different levels of like animals. And if you do something really terrible in your life, you get reincarnated into like one of these monsters that are like twisted animals. And it's this idea of choices that you make in your life, and it's this like monster racer and a monster racer trainer, I guess, banding together to do this and like figure out also a little bit of a mystery, and also the monster that they buy and ride, his story. So it was so good. And this pitched it sounds like a D&D campaign, honestly. Like it's 25 years after this band of heroes saved the world from this necromancer guy. They're all like scattered across the city and in this world. One of them is trying to resurrect her dead husband from that war, and she has been able to do so for the past 25 years in little bits at a time, but she needs a whole bunch of bones to be able to do it, human bones, to be able to do it for like, to give him half of her life, so that she and him can like live out their lives together, kind of a thing. And then there's Zira, who is making a name for herself in the city, and then they have another one of them who's gone slightly, he's had like a mental break because he like sees visions in bones, and he's like he kind of forced himself through the mental break. Interesting. And then we have one who's become a family man and who just wants a simple life on a farm with his kids. And then we have, of course, the dead one who gets resurrected right at the beginning of this. But I was reading this expecting it to be a like kind of like Kings of the Wild, where Kriya essentially asks her old band of people to come together and help her resurrect her husband. But that's not what happens at all. That resurrection happens within the first like 30% of the book. Like he comes back and helps them with the rest of it. It's this I don't know, like I wasn't like super into it at the beginning. I wasn't like super engaged or whatever, but I just kept going because like what else was I gonna do? And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. It is so good. Seeing the way each of the characters like bounce off each other and like their different personalities and stuff like that is so fantastic. And it's a very like interesting magic system because you have some, I think it's described as you have a bone maker, a bone seer, and a bone readers who use animal bones to reveal the future. Bone makers, bone wizards, that's the other one. That's what Zira is, who can like imbue, like create talismans out of the bones and like imbue people who use these talismans with like strength and speed and stealth or whatever. And then Kriya, who's a bone maker who can make like construct out of bones. So you have these three things, and then it's a very bone situated society, which is very interesting because usually necromancy is a magic that in fantasy world is not accepted, right? Because it's like, you know, going against the laws of nature and religion to be, you know, resurrected and like fight death. But it was so good. And it has like the underlying theme of like what you do with the time that you have kind of a thing. You don't know if there is that straight line between hero and villain because it's just what you do with your time that makes you one or the other, or it's your choices that gets you through life. I don't know, it was such a good book and I highly recommend it. It's a standalone fantasy novel. It's very action packed. I did not see where it was going at all, so I read most of that yesterday and then finished it just now, and I think I'm going to try and wrap up Gunmetal Gods as well today. I'm halfway through. Pretty much. I'm gonna see if I can get a good chunk done. But this one's okay. I think I talked about it yesterday, but it's just, there are some scenes that are too short and there are some scenes that are too long. And I don't understand why some scenes are given less weight than others, because it's like, you want this like big dramatic fight scene to be given more weight than like the conversations that are had. I don't understand. It's weird to explain it too, because like if someone says like, oh, some scenes are shorter than the others, and you can like, it's plotted weirdly, or like some are given more weight than others, like you're like, yeah, well, that's what writing is about. But it's oddly prevalent in this. Like it doesn't have a good balance between scenes. I'm just not loving it. There's that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do that today. I also need to at some point go return a couple dresses. I think I'm going over to mom and dad's for dinner, so I might do that before going to dinner. Yeah, I want to finish another book today, so I think the only way I'm gonna be able to do that is if I focus on Gunmetal Gods. I think I only have 2.5, 3 hours left of the audiobook. I don't know how much time I have left for A Memory Called Empire, because I'm not quite halfway through this. And it is a little bit more of a dense sci-fi, but I will be reading one of these two books today. Bone Maker, very good. And I should go glue that page into my bullet journal. Let's go do that. It's this page. I'm gonna add in the little thumbnail thing for the Bone Maker. Hello friends. Shut off my air. It is now a little later. It's about 4:20. I have just finished, surprise, A Memory Called Empire. I looked at how much time I had left on the audiobook and I had about 3 hours left when I last talked to you, so I decided to just power through the rest of this and finish that and get that space book off my list, because I am reading a bunch of space books this month. I think later I'm gonna try carve through Gunmetal Gods as well, and we're just gonna have a day of finishing books apparently, which is good because I want to kind of clear off my TBR before, or my currently reading list before September rolls around, because I have a few books. I have many library books that I need to get through, and I have a few very choice books that I want to read in September that I'm very excited about. Like over Labor Day weekend, I'm planning on reading books that are like some of my top most anticipated books. Like I really want to read The Jasmine Throne and its sequel, The Oleander Sword, because I want to reread The Jasmine Throne and get to The Oleander Sword, because I just want to live in that world very well. I just want to live in it because it's one of my favorites from last year, and I'm so excited for the sequel. I also really want to read Psalm and its sequel as well. So it's gonna be like a weekend of rereading books and then reading the sequels, because I also want to read Realm Breaker and Blade Breaker back to back. I don't know if I'll be able to finish 6 books, especially of those magnitude, in one weekend. But Labor Day weekend is 3 days, but my birthday is on the Tuesday, because that's coming up, September 6th. Oh my god. So I just want to like treat myself to books that I really want to read in the first couple weeks of September. So I'm trying to get a lot of my currently reading books off of my currently reading list so that I can do so. Start books without feeling guilty about adding to the already like 7 or 8 books that I'm currently reading. I also would really like to get back into When Women Were Dragons, so hopefully soon. But yeah, I think tonight when I get home, because I'm gonna get dressed and then leave. I'm gonna go return those dresses, then I'm gonna go to my parents for dinner. But when I get home, I think I'm gonna try and finish Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar. I'm gonna try, emphasis on try, because I have half the book left, and the first half of the book I had to like put it down because it was making me mad due to the gender stuff that I was telling you about earlier. So we'll see if I can get through this last half. Usually I find the last half of books much easier to get through, much faster to get through, so I'm not too worried. I'm not too worried at all. Yeah, like, because the first chunk of A Memory Called Empire was a lot to get through, but the last 60% of it, so fast. It helps when you have an audiobook at 3 times speed. I think I had it at 3.5 times speed actually, because I just wanted to stop listening to the narrator. She sounded like a robot. And like, she sounded like worse at normal speed than she did at that really high speed. So, you know, anyways, I'm gonna go. We'll see you later. Friends, it is now much later. I'm back home and I've been doing some reading and I've got a long play on. If you can hear any weird sounds in the background, that is what that is. I'm on page like 307-ish of Gunmetal Gods and I'm still making my way through. Not anything special, comments still stand, but I hate that it is already Sunday night. I hate it so much. Our weekends go too fast. They really do. And it's gonna be like this until like you retire. Like that's, man, we got a crappy setup, don't we? I am going to try and finish this tonight. We're gonna see how this last chunk of the book goes. And tomorrow's Monday, but we've already finished 3 books this weekend, so we're just killing the game. I'm like 30 minutes from ending this book and I'm just so bothered by it. Spoilers, if you don't want to be spoiled for the ending of Gunmetal Gods or just like in general. But spoilers, I'll put it on the screen. You can mute me until it's gone. But I am so done with the fact that every important woman in here is used as grief fodder for men to get their shit done. I'm so mad about it. We had the setup of like 3 or 4 important women, 5 in this, which turned out to only be 3 women because 4 of them were only really 2 of them because they were like in disguise. The evil like witch lady was actually also Kiva's wife, missing wife, and Melody, who died at the beginning of this, was also actually Ellie, who was Micah's daughter. Like, I'm so mad. And at the end, the one woman who like came close to being cool and badass, who like had a few falls in this, like of being like, no, just leave me here with my brother because he's gonna be mad if I leave, because she's like essentially being kept as a prisoner at one point, and they like free her and she's like, why did you free me? I would have escaped. And I'm just like, this girl is testing me. She just died at the end of this to give us more grief fodder for the next book for our main character. Leave women alone. Let them have their own damn stories and don't let them die just to make men sad. Please. I'm gonna finish this and I'll let you know my thoughts at the end. All right. Book is done. This was fine. It was just fine. It had good writing, it had an interesting concept, interesting world, but man, oh man, like besides the gender thing that I've already discussed at length, and the fact that women are just used as objects in this freaking book, the pacing is so weird. The scenes are so short or overly long. There's a moment in this big battle moment. There's a couple of them actually that we are building to, and then they're over in a page and it's like done. I don't understand. Like, one of the main things was that Keva was gonna go defeat Micah the Metal, our other point of view, and I missed the moment that he did because it was like this big on the page. I'm sorry, that's not, you don't give me this whole narrative of this man trying to take back his city and his town and then do it in this big of space. I'm very confused. This would have benefited from a better editor. It would have benefited from like a developmental editor, I think, like, because the writing was great. I didn't have any issues with the writing. That like the physical structure and grammar of the sentences was fine, and it was actually quite nice in the beginning. Found many quotes that I was like, this is beautiful. But structurally and story-wise, could have really benefited from a developmental editor because this was whack. It was just fine. Like, it was good, and I did enjoy it. But once we hit that halfway mark, all of the stuff that had annoyed me in the beginning, especially with the women being objects and the weird pacing thing, got worse in the second half, and it just like nothing was getting better. I felt like the plot was a little disjointed and like nothing was happening, but a whole lot was happening because we weren't actually dwelling in the important moments and like hitting the story beats as we were supposed to. That's Gunmetal Gods. Yeah, I don't know about this one. So gonna have to sleep on it, pop it through Copile in the morning. But that was the 4th book finished this weekend. All of these shocking moments, or like the twists in the narrative, were like not given enough. Like in the beginning, some of them weren't given enough time, or like we weren't given enough character to care when they were killed or something. So like it felt, that's what it is. Every single one of these deaths, every single one of these like moments that are like shocking were just to move the plot along. They didn't feel earned or purposeful in any way. It was just for shock factor. It was just to move the plot along. It was just to make our character hurt a little bit more and be a little bit more brutal. Like it was just for that. And that makes me mad because every single one of them was a woman. And besides the point, the last half of the book, all of these like twists and turns and stuff that were happening, I was like, I guessed that. As soon as we were introduced to all these characters that we have in play, like I'm like, I guessed it. I don't know, guys. This is giving me the same feeling I had, like a very tiny bit of it, when I was reading Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and I rage finished that one for a few reasons. Like this is giving me a little bit of that feeling. I'm just mad because it's not a bad book. Just didn't have a good time reading it, but I did have a good time. Like it was fine, and I wanted to read it, and so I'm gonna sleep on this, and then I'll throw it through Copile tomorrow. I'll let you know my final thoughts. But for now, it's time for me to go to bed. Hello friends, happy Monday. Welcome to the end of this lovely weekend vlog. Hi, hello. I hope you guys really enjoyed watching this vlog. I really enjoyed this weekend. It was a great, relaxing time and exactly what I needed. This weekend has been great. Finished 4 books off of my TBR, which is fantastic. This weekend we started off with finishing Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston, which I ended up giving 3.5 stars. I believe 3.5 stars. Cute little middle grade. I still think the world building was too much. There's too much going on, but the story itself, pretty cute, and we love a good middle grade in this household. Then wrapped The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst, which I gave 4 stars. It was such a good time. There's something about Sarah Beth Durst's writing that is so comforting for me. I don't know what it is, but I highly recommend her as an author, and I believe she's also written some middle grades as well. I've never read any of her middle grades, but I love her adult fantasies, so you should probably venture into her other works as well. Then I also wrapped up Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martine, which I gave 3.5 stars. You'll get all my thoughts on this one when I release my space vlog, which should be going up sometime very soon in September. I have one more book that I want to read for it, so hopefully I can get that done too and get it up for you guys because it's a good, fun space time. Finally wrapped Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar. I think upon reflection, and I was talking to my buddy reader last night, I like sent a message to them on the Discord and said like, hey, like I'm done this book and I have some issues with it, and I like quickly went through my issues, but I didn't go into like spoilers because they are not done the book. And they were like, yeah, usually I give self-published books a little bit of leeway when it comes to pacing. And I got like thinking, and I was like, I don't know if the actual plot of the book was paced weird. I think the plot of the book was just too fast, but at the same time it was also too slow in some instances, and that imbalance comes from the actual individual scenes themselves. Like some of them were just too quick, some of them weren't given enough weight. Like a lot of the build-up moments, like we would have a lot of build-up to like this battle or this moment, and then that moment would be treated with like just and gone. Like it would be like not even a page or a page of of work to get to that moment, and it just wasn't satisfying. It wasn't a lot of like cause and effect or like build up and then pay off and then build up and then pay off. And I think that's what bothered me about it, about the pacing. I don't think the pacing of the actual story was that bad. It's just those individual moments, the payoff wasn't there, you know? And then of course, spoilers, I don't know, I can't remember if I mentioned this last night, but the ending was whack. Like the first half of the book was well and polished and good. The second half needed some help, because the second half, I don't know what was happening. We had a couple point of views pop in just so we could have the story continue, because our 2 point of views for the beginning of the book were locked in jail. If Zamil had introduced other point of views earlier on in the book more often, then it wouldn't have felt as out of place. But one of the point of views actually, like, again, spoilers, one of the point of views was brought back from the dead by a god, and then within 3 chapters he was dead again. So you have this feeling that he was only brought back from the dead to put Micah in jail and to be a point of view above ground while Micah was in jail, so that we knew what was going on, because otherwise the story would have come to a complete halt. Both of our characters were in jail. Like, there's a couple moments in here that were done just to move the plot along and not in a like satisfying way. Like it felt gratuitous. It felt like a lot of the moments, especially with the women characters that were either killed off or were discussed or like surprised they're actually the same character kind of situations. Those moments felt exclusively for like almost shock factor, not quite in like the oh my god shock factor of like a death. And these deaths in here do mean something to the narrative, but they are exclusively put there to make men sad and want to commit like atrocities and want to exact revenge. That is all they're used for, which really bothers me. Like I was discussing earlier in this video, I don't think I was doing it very well, but about how I understand that in this world that Zamil has created, it's based off of a culture that is like, I don't know exactly what culture it's based off of, but this world and this time period, women were treated like this and women were treated that terribly. And like we know today, women are still treated that terribly in some cultures around the world. And I understand that and emulating that world to make it more realistic, to treat women badly, but it's when the narrative and the author uses women as objects and as grief fodder and as like tokens in the narrative to move things along for men, to make them sad, to make them like pitiable, or to kind of give them something that humanizes them a little bit. It drives me bananas when that happens. Like if you want to put these characters in a world that treats women terribly, sure, that's fine. I don't know, give us a woman character that's more than 2-dimensional. Give us a woman character that actually has a good satisfying arc throughout the novel and isn't just a side character that gets killed off eventually and doesn't have an arc at all, or ends up being somebody else, which was something that I guessed right at the beginning of the novel, and then ends up again getting killed off and adding more grief to our character. Like there's a lot of that in this, and that really bothered me. So this one is only 2.5 stars for me, because I had too many issues with just a lot of the stuff in here that you guys have heard me ramble about in this video for a long time. But yes, that was my weekend. Those are the books that I read, and I'm excited to read more to keep going. And for September starting this week, crazy, how are we already in September? My birthday is in like 7 days. Also, we got an announcement for a Taylor Swift album last night. It's just like the world is just flipped over. I'm so excited. We're getting a Taylor Swift album this year. Oof, what a weekend. Anyways, my friends, I'm gonna leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below if you read any of these books or if you had a great weekend as well. And let me know what's on the top of your TBR for September, because I'd love to know. I'll catch you in another video very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.